All right, Paulie Malignaggi, you've had a couple of days now to have a good look at Nikita Tszyu, Michael Zerafa. Any change of opinions? How do you see this fight?
I mean, there's no change of opinions. You're still looking for the same things. You're looking for, I think the youth energy of Tszyu against the veteran craftsmanship of Zerafa. You're looking for, some raw mistakes from Nikita Tszyu, but at the same time, for his really all-consuming energy that I notice he tends to fight with, his intensity. If it's something that Zerafa at this stage of his career, at this stage of his life, can offset with that craftsmanship. So, it's one of those things where if, you try to read between the lines, right? You try to read their energy during the week, right? And it almost seems to me like Zerafa's tired of playing the bad guy. He's tired of using all that energy in the pre-fight build-up. And you could take it one of two ways. You could say, oh, he's looking to save it for the fight. Or you could say, you know what, maybe he's mentally checked out because he's not playing the role that he's usually been passionate about playing. Zerafa has always been passionate about playing a little bit of a bad guy role, And I can only speak from my experience, and I can speak from the experience of the fighters that I've watched ringside through the years of commentating. I've seen older guys, I've seen younger guys, and I've seen this dynamic play out time and time again because it's just part of boxing. And for me, when you're checked out from playing the role you've always played, it's almost like you're checked out a little bit from your passion. But boxing is not your passion. So for me, if boxing is not your passion and you're doing it, you're looking to grab a few paydays at the end of your career, and that it's fine. A lot of guys will do that. But then the problem is you run into a young, hungry, say phenom, let's say a savage, let's say ferocious guy like Nikita Tszyu, and that sort of gives you that reality check, unfortunately, that lets you know, maybe my time is past. And I'm, as I watch them and I observe them, listen, Michael knows how to handle the media very well. He understands how to play the game and all this other stuff. But I also just see a little bit of a checked out fighter, and I know in your mind, I've been there, I know in your mind you're going to say, oh, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And you go in there really intending to do that. You go in there really believing it. But these kind of situations, when the young guy starts laying that firepower out there and the intensity and the heat in the kitchen starts cooking and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, you've been there already. So you know what's about to happen, and you know what it takes to get through it, because you may have gotten through it in your career at times, and there's times when you may not have gotten through it. But what I'm saying is your understanding of the moment. And when that moment presents itself, and I think in this fight it will, what is going to be the choice Zerafa makes? If he's mentally checked out, he's not going to be able to deal with it. He's not going to be able to push himself through it. And I'm telling you, man, Tszyu has a serial killer look to him. I don't know, man. It's like he's a little bit of a psychotic person when you look at him inside the ring, I mean, even outside the ring, he's got an endearing personality to where he just answers questions innocently and whatnot. But there's a killer in there, man. And at this stage of his career, he still has that, almost that naivety, that bliss that makes him want to be a savage and ferocious fighter. That passes all of us by at a certain point. And we try to get through it with our veteran craftsmanship. And basically the question is, does Zerafa have enough craftiness to offset that energy? As I watch them, I'm not quite sure.
At what point in this fight, when you're watching it, will you know which way it's going to go? Is it going to take a couple of rounds for these guys to size themselves out, or how do you see that going?
I think you'll know right away. I know Zerafa would like to sort of start in a relaxed way. And some people say, let him relax. I don't think Nikita's going to let him relax early on. So I think Zerafa is going to actually, if he's going to be successful in this fight, he's going to actually have to start fast and then try to offset and slow it down as the fight progresses. But I think he's going to have to first make sure Nikita has a fear of him, a respect for him. And in order to do that, I think he has to start the fight in a way that puts Nikita on the back foot a little bit. I think if you think you're just I'm gonna work my way into the fight, and these young guys don't let you do that. You gotta teach them how to do that. And that you gotta teach them with your fists. Which means you're gonna have to start fast, and you're gonna have to get yourself into a situation that maybe at this point in your life you may not be excited to get yourself into. Again, where I wonder about the passion of Zerafa. Is it there or not? And again, these are just observations from a pundit. Everybody can view it differently. But these are observations from a pundit that's an ex-fighter that has been at that stage of his career as well, and also has seen these other, again, the dynamic of the young fighter against the old fighter, and where the energy levels lie at this point, and the passion levels lie at this point. Because if you don't have enthusiasm and passion in your boxing, you're not going to want to deal with the firepower and the fire itself, and the heat turning up in the kitchen, so to speak, when it gets there. And in a Nikita Tszyu fight, it will inevitably get there. I've seen enough Nikita Tszyu fights now as I've prepared for this punditry job this week, where I'm like, this guy turns up the heat a lot. This guy turns up in. Is Zerafa a good enough boxer to offset that? Because you got to be a boss boxer. You can't just be a boxer where I'm going to waste time, and he's not going to buy it. Nikita's not going to buy the illusion. The only thing Nikita buys is getting punched in the mouth and forcing him to respect you. And even then, sometimes he doesn't respect you. So I think Zerafa, if he's going to go rounds here, he's going to have to get his respect early. And I don't think it's going to be one of those, oh, yeah, I got to work myself into the fight. I think he's got to start fast. And then if he's able to have success starting fast, then maybe he'll be able to say, okay, now I can, calmly work my way into the fight. Because I think Nikita's going to start fast. I think Nikita's going to be looking to take control right away and create those doubts in the old veteran.
From what you've seen of Nikita Tszyu, obviously some flaws there. He's not the perfect fighter, but if he can fix that, if he wins this week, can you see him going on up the levels? Is he someone who could contend at that world level?
He's got a lot of flaws, but he's got a lot of excitement factor to him because he's got firepower, he's got the mental edge, and all that stuff. I see a style that probably is not going to last long. But then again, you thought Arturo Gatti wasn't going to last long, right? And Arturo Gatti had over a decade career at the very top of the sport. So, and I see a little bit of that quality, but in a little bit more of a psycho way. I don't know if Zerafa said he is out of a Jeffrey Dahmer vibe to Nikita. There is a bit of a psycho to the fighter that is Nikita Tszyu. When I look at Arturo Gatti, he was more of a temperamental lunatic, temperamental crazy person. While with Nikita, he doesn't seem temperamental. He seems like a psycho, So when he's in there, which is scary, because he's not going to go anywhere. And I don't even, again, you got to hit him and you got to hit him and you got to hit him in order to get his respect. And sometimes even that doesn't work. Definitely technically and fundamentally flawed. But there's also an awkwardness to him, and there's a lot of power, and sometimes that offsets the flaws. I don't think he'll ever be a perfect fighter. But if moved correctly, I think this guy can create a good little career for himself, because I think he'll be an exciting fighter. Plus, he has one of the good last names in the sport.
Tszyu, I saw you make some comments today that there was some talk about Tszyu-Errol Spence. What are your thoughts on that, if that was to take place?
Yeah, I mean, when you think of Tszyu and what's possible for him right now, you think of, okay, they got to bring him back. They've got to bring him back in a way where they don't abuse the kid. That I thought, he was brought back in a little bit too many tough fights, put in tough situations, even when he didn't have to be brought back. That first Fundora fight was a tough situation to get put in on last minute notice. But even at this point, yeah, there's an opportunity. I think you look, okay, what's the alignment here with Tim? It's with PBC, right, in the States. So you look at some bigger names in the PBC roster. And obviously he's been in Fundora twice, so it's not going to be Fundora. Thurman has been discussed, but Thurman is fighting Fundora. So, maybe if Thurman beats Fundora, you can work your way into that. But probably Thurman's not going to beat Fundora, right? So, you think of Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence, guys that may be a little bit past it, but still have a representation as a name in the sport, So, you start to just think of things like that in terms of this situation that he's in and the stable that he's in, and those are the names that stick out to you, right? I mean, that's literally why you talk about it like that, right? So Errol hasn't been busy. He's sort of needs a comeback fight himself. Tim needs a little bit of a comeback himself. He just had a small win over Velasquez. He's going to keep trying to work his way back in. So you look at the fight on paper and you think this is a sellable, marketable fight, and between two guys who need to work their way back in. And, the winner is two big names, so the winner obviously creates a real drawing power to himself again and works their way probably into a title fight.
Last one, prediction for this fight, Nikita Tszyu, Michael Zerafa.
I think I'll tell you what Zerafa has got to do in order to even give himself a chance to win the fight, and why I don't think that happens. He's got to probably get to the last third of the fight, but he's got to get there with the fight still hanging in the balance, which means he's going to have to offset the confidence of Nikita, the psychosis of Nikita, and the awkward style and the power of Nikita. He doesn't have to win every round, but he's got to offset it enough to where the fight is hanging in the balance after about 8 rounds. If the fight is hanging in the balance after about 8 rounds, that means Michael has done enough to even build his own confidence. And for him to be confident in the last 4 rounds with the fight hanging in the balance, he's got the experience. That's his territory. And at that point, he can win the fight. I don't see that happening. I think Nikita, I see a partially checked out Michael Zerafa. When you ask him how important this is, and he keeps trying to put the pressure on Nikita, saying there's more pressure on Nikita. For him, he's had his career and he's fought at the top and whatnot. The answer I wanted to see from Michael Zerafa personally was there's still something to accomplish in this sport. I want to be a world champion. Michael Zerafa's never been a world champion, so he wants to be that's the one thing we all want to be in the sport, is a world champion. So I felt like him, and he's been asked that question a couple of times that I've noticed, and he's never answered it that way. Where because if you tell me that's a void that's got to be filled, and I'm saying, okay, you know what? There's still a passion. There's still something he's striving for legacy-wise. But if you don't give me that, and you tell me that the more pressure's on Nikita, when you know this is your last chance to work your way back to a world title fight, then you're probably just doing this for a little bit for the money. Yeah, if you can win it, you can win it, but you're probably a little bit mentally checked out. So for that reason, and for many reasons, of course, the way they come together, the point in his life that he's at, the point in his life and career that Nikita's at, the combination of it leads me to edge towards a Nikita Tszyu stoppage.
Nice one. Thanks, Paulie. Appreciate your time.
And before I leave, this is not meant to disrespect Michael or Nikita Tszyu as pundits. And one day Michael will likely be a pundit at some point, because he's got a big name in Australia. He'll understand. These are talking points that have to be brought to the table. The talking points in regards to one fighter, the talking points in regards to another fighter. The talking points come from what? Your past history, what you've shown. And the discussion points come around from that, from the results, from the moments, and so on and so forth, from recent showings, from past showings. And then you put them all together and you blend them into predictions, you blend them into technical talking points, you blend them into opinions, and which creates talking points for the fans that are going to watch. If you don't do this, you create no interest in the fight. So, and so therefore, these are my breakdowns of it. It's not meant to disrespect, but yeah, the way I see it, and from my experience, from myself and the experience that I've had ringside watching other fighters in this dynamic and situation, and the reactions I'm observing, that's my pick.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.